Gentleman yields back. Mr. Khanna is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Milley, I want to first thank you for your 42 years of service, for your principled commitment to civilian rule, for your commitment to military communication that kept this country safe for 3 decades during the Cold War, and for the sacrifice and patriotism that you and your family has shown. As a son of immigrants, I'm in your family's debt. And I want to thank the 3 of you for ending America's longest war and executing the largest airlift in history. Now, Secretary Austin, you've testified that had 2,500 troops stayed past the deadline, the military would likely have needed reinforcements. And I want to just make this clear. The choice for President Biden wasn't 0 troops or 2,500 troops. It was 0 troops or potentially many more troops. General Milley, just briefly, would you agree that at some point more than 2,500 troops would have been needed had the Taliban engaged in offensive strikes?
I'm sorry. There's a reasonable prospect we would have had to increase forces past 2,500, given that the Taliban were very likely was going to start attacking us. And there's a range of forces. We're really talking about 2,500 to 4,500 in that range.
Appreciate that. I want to talk about the strike that killed civilians. And I know, look, I think our military cares more about the loss of civilian life than any military in the world, any superpower ever in history. And that's why I think we ought to talk about this candidly. And I brought pictures of the 7 children who were killed, along with the 3 adults, to remind us that this is not what America wants. This is something that we need to prevent in the future. Press Secretary Kirby, who did a fine job during those 10 days, said you would support evacuating these family members as they have requested and resettling them in the U.S. Is that correct, Secretary Austin?
It is.
My question is, can we get the family and the co-workers evacuated now and brought to safety? I get the legal hoops, but could that happen after? Can we just get them into the U.S. or some safe place?
Well, we'll continue to work through State Department channels to engage the family, and if they desire to leave, then we'll certainly do everything we can to facilitate getting them out.
I hope we can just expedite that and expedite the compensation. It's the moral thing to do. It's the right thing to do. It's how America conducts itself, and so I hope you will take that into consideration. General McKenzie, I admire and respect your leadership, but I want to see how we can improve the intelligence to prevent these kind of strikes in the future. One aspect you said is that there was a white Toyota Corolla that led to the attacks. I'm sure you're aware, is there any car more common than a Toyota Corolla in Afghanistan?
It's a very common car. Of course, there were many other factors that went into that decision, not simply the fact it was a Toyota Corolla.
According to the Stars and Stripes, roughly 90% of cars registered in Afghanistan have been Corollas. One of the other things that concerned me is, based on my reading, and obviously you know more, the Corolla was parked next to a registered, U.S.-registered, California-based NGO that was delivering humanitarian assistance. And I guess the question is, did the DOD know about the NGO in advance of the strike?
I would prefer to, since that's under investigation now, I'd like to defer that question.
I would just hope that we can make sure going forward that our department will cross-check its intelligence to make sure that aid organizations are on no-strike lists. I assume that if there is a aid organization or hospital, those are on no-strike lists?
As Representative, as are mosques, which are often used by ISIS-K as training sites as well.
All right. Again, I believe that our military goes through extraordinary lengths to prevent this. It's not to try to be an indictment of anyone. I just want to make sure we continue to improve the processes and that we do right by the families who were suffered this unspeakable tragedy. Thank you again to the 3 of you for your leadership, and thank you to everyone who served. Regardless of one's view in Afghanistan, I find the attacks on your integrity and patriotism to be a dishonor to this committee and a dishonor to your service.
Thank you. Gentleman's time expired. I have to ask the witnesses a question little complicated scheduling thing going on here. We are scheduled to have votes at 1:30-ish. My plan would be to, if we could go to that period, get through that, take the break then, but it's been a while. If you need a break earlier, we can take a 15-minute break at 12:30, and I wish there was an easier way to do this, but totally up to you. Would you like to break at 12:30, or would you like to just go until votes?
I think we're good for right now, Chairman, and if
Okay. If you need a break, just, you know.
we'll fire the star cluster.
We all have we all have overprotective aides who are like, you know, pounding on us that they need a break, they need a break. So I just figured I'd ask. So we will proceed, and I appreciate that. Mr. Gallagher is recognized.